people are eating hundreds of extra grams of protein, eating hundreds or thousands of extra calories to generate what the most you're going to get is maybe 3 to 5 pounds of muscle a year. So it's absurd how much people are overdoing it with the calories. If you can only gain 1 pound a month, and you can't even grow that, but even if you could only grow 1 pound a month, that's only 100 calories a day. That's only like 25 extra grams of protein, right? So like, there's no reason to go super excessive with the calories.
It's time to sit down, keep it real, and cut the bullshit. Welcome to Table Talk.
So as long as your weight's stable, then you're fine. And then as far as training stimulus, if you're getting a pump when you're training that muscle, that doesn't mean you have to, but if you are, pretty good indication you've stimulated that muscle. If I'm doing bicep curls and I'm getting an anterior delt and forearm pump, but not a bicep pump, that might not be the right exercise for me. But if I'm getting a bicep pump, the biceps are getting stimulated. If you're slightly sore the next day, you slightly overtrained it. Because you did damage and now your immune system has to repair that damage with inflammation. So you definitely did something if you're inflamed from it. So you want to scratch the surface, you want to stimulate it. You know, what's stimulate, not annihilate was Lee Haney's thing. So we want, if 6 sets is 1 set too many, you could do 5. And then come back 48 hours later and do 5 more. And then come back 48 hours later and do 5 more. So if you do that, which is kind of like an Israel model, you know, and so that's what I mean. If you've got your bases covered, you're getting good enough sleep, you're getting at least calorie neutrality, you're getting at least the appropriate amount of protein, you're getting at least, you're stimulating the muscle as frequently as possible and not overtraining it, but you're at least stimulating enough to where you got to pump it and you know that you're exactly 1 set under too many. So I think Israel's idea is that if MRV is maximum recoverable volume, and then MEV is maximum effective volume, then MAV, maximum adaptive volume, is not right under MRV, it's right above MEV. So it's, if 4 sets is enough and you can handle 18 sets, the right amount might be 5 sets every 48 hours. So if you got all that shit knocked out and you're still not growing, and your blood work says your test is at 1500, your IGF-1 is at 300, and you're still not growing, then adding a little bit of masteron, maybe 10 to 20 milligrams a day, would probably push you over the edge.
In that context though, so first off, that video about TDE maintenance, whatever, can you just talk about that a little bit? Because that is being, should we say, misconstrued by people where they see maintenance as the amount it takes to maintain their body weight, but it's not really as simple as that, or the way that you and your colleague or whoever were explaining it in the video, it's a little bit more complicated than that.
I think everyone wants to win on that battle, but the war is waged somewhere else. So her whole point is, science bullshit aside, even though that's what she does, science is, if your fat level's the same, you're at maintenance, because fat is reserve energy. If your fat level is going down, you're not at maintenance, you're in a deficit. If your fat level is going up, you're at a surplus. So judging your progress based on fat, as long as your fat's neutral, then that means you are not gaining any fat. So if your lifts are progressing in the gym, but your fat level is neither going down nor up, you're at maintenance. So the old way of thinking was maintenance was body weight. But body weight's a shitty way of measuring something because it's mostly water and sodium that changes. And true, we have no accurate way to measure body fat. But if you look over a span of 6 months and your conditioning's the same, that's what matters. Is if you put on 20 pounds on your bench press, 40 pounds on this row, 40 pounds on squat, and you've been lifting the same program for 6 months and you've been lifting 10 years, if you're making that much gains, it ain't neuromuscular adaptation. It's got to be muscle, and you probably look bigger. So that's what the whole context is. It isn't for people who are competitive bodybuilders, because competitive bodybuilders are going to want to put some fat back on after the show. But when it comes to the vast majority of people, and I think most of her audience, it's regular people who are not competitive bodybuilders. They just want to permabulk And so rather than perma-bulking, main gaining, like Greg Doucette says, which is a healthier way of approaching it. People are concerned that maybe this isn't the fastest way to do it. Maybe it's not. But if you're bulking for 8 months and then you have to cut for 6 months, then after that 14 months, are you really further ahead than the person who just main gained for 14 months? No. It's the tortoise versus the hare. The hare has to take rests, and the tortoise can keep going. Bodybuilding is a sport of the tortoise, not the hare. And then additionally, when you go into a calorie surplus and you're growing fat, you're not just getting hypertrophy of the fat cells, you're getting hyperplasia of the fat cells. So you're getting more fat cells. And then your leptin amount is dependent off of how many fat cells you have, not and how full they are. So it means each iteration of bulking and cutting, your appetite's going to permanently go up and up and up. Your set point is going to go up and up and up because you're putting on fat cells that you don't want to put on. It's not an optimal way of doing it. Even if you, instead of, and she even says, something I figured out too is, if 100 calories a day is enough of a surplus and you feel like, what if I'm underestimating it? Go 200 calories a day. Then you'll gain 2 pounds a month as opposed to 1 pound a month. There's no fucking way you're getting 2 pounds of muscle a month continuously. So it means you're guaranteeing you're gaining 1 pound of fat a month. So if that makes you feel more comfortable, because you know for sure you have a surplus of calories because you're gaining a half a pound a week and it's easier to track that way, that's fine. But that's how many more weeks are you going to have to cut before a show? And the longer that prep phase, the more grueling it is, the bigger the deficit, the more muscle you're going to lose. So are you really gaining more muscle? No.
In that context as well, do you think there's a misconception as well about what maintenance means? And by that, I mean, we all take into account like step count or, you know, how many calories you burn in the gym. But if we look at maintenance as the energy it takes to cover the activity you're doing, but also recover from the activity you're doing, in theory, maintenance calories would also cover the recovery process, right?
And I think what a lot of these science guys are doing is they're not accounting the calories it took to grow the tissue into TDEE. And that's where and if you read the comments on those videos, because I think one of those videos has 240,000 views and there's thousands of comments in there. If you actually read through the comments, and she can't fight all those fights, so I'll jump in there once in a while. And it's like, then she's got better shit to do. I don't have better shit to do. I'll fight all day. But so it's like, I'll get in there. And the thing is it's the semantics over how they define TDEE. And so they're like, well, it says so in my textbook. I was like, guess what, dude? The textbook was written by a dude. God didn't write your fucking textbook. And one day she's going to have a PhD and she's going to be writing the fucking textbooks. So that's whatever she says is kind of, I'm not saying whatever she says goes, but these are men who write now ladies who write the textbooks. They're not gods. And it doesn't mean the shit in there is right.
True. Well, at some point, it also said that leeches cured everything as well, right?
What's funny you brought that up is how many motherfuckers do I have to tell not to get their blood drawn? They're like, oh, my doctor says my hematocrit's high. I've got to get my blood drawn. I was like, did he use leeches? They're like, no. I was like, how fucking stupid is that? And they're like, what do you mean? I was like, think it through. Why the fuck would your body make more red blood cells if it didn't want them? It's like, well, it's supposed to cause strokes. It's like, it's supposed to cause strokes in 70-year-old men. Are you 70 years old? No. I was like, they're regressing. They're taking data and they're supposing the mechanism that caused those events. Like, of the stroke people, they had a correlation. Doesn't mean there's causation. Like, do people in Denver give their blood? No. What do you mean? It's like, well, it's got less oxygen in Denver. So I bet in Denver they've got more red blood cells on average. So this is how I would investigate for insulin resistance. And then I got this from my business partner, Dr. Karina Dodson, that if you got HbA1c, which is nice, that's the long term, that's the red blood cells and how glycosylated they are, and that tells you 120 days worth how it gives you a picture of the last 120 days, how much glucose you were over, right? I rarely see guys who are under 5.5. All right. Then there's the fasted glucose, which was at the time of testing. But that's kind of useless without having a fasted insulin. So if your fasted insulin is under 5, you're insulin sensitive, assuming your HbA1c is under like 5.3 or something. If your fasting insulin's over 5, even if your glucose is good, it means that your cells are getting insulin resistant, so your pancreas is working overtime, so you've got more insulin in the bloodstream. So it's a prelude to insulin resistance. I mean, it's a prelude to diabetes type 2. You're not there yet, but eventually it's going to get to the point where the pancreas can't keep up with the demand, that you're going to get so resistant that the maximum it can pump out, whether it's 13, 14, whatever, insulin fasting, that fasting glucose is going to go up and up and up.
Yeah. So is it more important? Should everyone be tacking that on, that fasting insulin, rather than just worrying about glucose and A1C?
Especially now, because something I noticed myself, and I think Justin Harris said, because he's got quite a bit of clients, he noticed that people are having more pancreatic insufficiency post-COVID. And there's a podiatrist that I work with, and she had found that there is a lot of evidence now that there's all type of autoimmune disorders associated with the spike protein that's found in both COVID and the vaccine. And that this long COVID, in a lot of cases, is spike protein damage caused by the vaccine. And that it's sticking around in people's bodies, causing all types of autoimmune disorders, one of which is this pancreatic insufficiency secondary to pancreatitis. So it's interesting to watch this storm unfold, because everyone's slamming the Ozempic and the retatrutides and all this stuff, covering up for their subclinical long COVID symptoms. And like, I don't know what the fuck's going to happen first. Either it's going to protect them long enough for the spike proteins to eventually get eliminated, or if just massive organ failure is what's going to come. But shit's building up fast because everyone's slamming these drugs and they're brand new.
Sure. So in truth then, just to tick that diet box for everyone to kind of make it clear for them, they really don't need a surplus or very little of a surplus. And the whole idea that more calories and more carbs is better because of these kind of hormonal changes related to that aren't really, in the long term at least, of any benefit to them. Could it be argued that if you were to stay at maintenance, but you were to have a higher proportion of your calories come from carbs, would that be a way of taking advantage of that kind of pathway without doing harm, or is it really just not necessary?
I think the whole point of driving the carbs up is to drive the insulin up.
Sure.
And as the insulin goes up, the insulin resistance will go up.
Even if you're at maintenance or near enough. Okay.
Yeah, I think that I could be wrong.
No, sure.
You know, it's like,
well, we all could about everything.
I hate to speak for her because it's her theory, and she'll say it's not a theory, it's fact. But you know what I mean? It's like she knows that stuff better than I do. And so, but that it is on my website, on my YouTube channel. So I want to be able to articulate and answer your questions as to how I understand it. I don't necessarily change what I do or what I coach just because science changes.
Sure.
Because we all basically got fucked if we try to do that length impartial bullshit. We all got fucked if we try to do the 4-second eccentric bullshit, because we got behind shit data way too fast. Whereas a lot of the pro bodybuilders, like Derek Lunsford, he didn't change shit. He's like, oh, okay, that's what science says. And, you know, he just waited and wanted to see how the tides change.
Are you looking to boost recovery, enhance your sex drive, and improve performance in the gym? Do you think your hormones are out of whack and you're tired of getting the runaround from your doctor? You know, things like your hormones are just fine, stop lifting heavy weights, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I know what that feels like, as I've been down that road most of my life. This is why we've partnered with Merrick Health. Merrick Health is a premium telehealth platform that specializes in hormone optimization and preventative medicine, ensuring a better quality of life. Merrick Health offers a TABLETALK panel tailored for our listeners, featuring comprehensive tests like total and free testosterone, sensitive estradiol, and advanced markers like lipoprotein A and IGF-1. These comprehensive panels of up to 84 carefully selected biomarkers allow you to identify areas of enhancement and maximize your physical, cognitive, and sexual performance. It's much different than the panels you may get from your doctor. Choose between self-service options where you can select lab panels based upon decades of experience, or opt for guided optimization with your own health coach. Start with a detailed breakdown of your labs and receive personalized treatment options, both over the counter and prescription. Visit merrickhealth.com/tabletalk and use the code TABLETALK to get 10% off your first order. Merrick Health isn't just about better health, it's about empowering you to take control of your well-being.
So I turn it up to 11 and it's the most pump ever because I want to be able to get the quickest pump I can so I know for fucking sure that's an effective set. Like out of 15 reps, okay, rep 4, I'm starting to get a pump, then I know I'm on target.
Sure. So just for those who are listening, and we kind of skipped over that, like the metabolic theory, lactate theory, or whatever, are you referring to the fact that the idea is that a pump and the lactate that comes with it has some kind of stimulatory effect on hypertrophy, and that is kind of up in the air in many people's opinions?
In many people's opinions, yeah. But I put lactate in the Thor's Hammer product because I am one of the people that thinks metabolic has an effect.
Okay, and what makes you lean towards it? 'Cause obviously we've got mechanistic data that shows it does all these things and brings down myostatin and increases IGF-1, etc. Are you of the belief that happens to a significant enough degree that it can enhance hypertrophy?
Well, statistically significant doesn't mean clinical significance. So we don't know that it actually does shit. We know that the mechanistic data is the best data because we're not having outcome data in our population. So when we have outcome data on the wrong population, that ain't worth crap. If I've got outcome data that high protein diets cause kidney damage on people with kidney disease, or if I've got outcome data that estrogen hurts IGF-1 on postmenopausal women using birth control pills, and that's their form of estrogen in the absence of testosterone, that outcome data is shit. I'm not going to pay attention to that outcome data. But I can take that mechanistic data and combine it with this mechanistic data and this mechanistic data and compile an entire module of data that's like, okay, estrogen binds here, estrogen binds there, this is upregulated, this is downregulated, testosterone blocks here, the progesterone comes in here, downregulates this, upregulates that, progesterone beta comes here, blocks this, nandrolone binds here, upregulates here, and then trenbolone comes here, downregulates there. And then I'm like, okay, how the fuck do I put that on the screen? And I got Kai for that. I would take me 30 minutes to draw it on a dry erase board. But now, based on like that most recent video I did, which I don't even remember the fucking title, but it was, anyway, it was the most recent video I did where I talked about the structure. It was basically structure is the key word of Primo and the structure Oldenone versus the structure of Masteron. He was capable of making the graphics happen as I was talking. And I'm like, okay, this is gonna be the next level. This is what the industry standard needs to be. Everybody needs to catch up and do it this way so that we can really communicate and teach, because colleges don't have that shit. No. There's no college that has that shit in anything. So it's like Jordan Peterson's of university is the only thing that's at that level. So if we can bring them the best education on earth on YouTube, and you got multiple channels doing that, so it's not just my opinion. You got everybody saying that'd be fucking awesome. And if someone disagrees with me, if we could get on a podcast together and discuss it, and then after the podcast, our post-production teams put up the graphics to show these opposing theories, that the 2026 through 2030 is an amazing time for people, because everyone's going to be making gains. People are going to be healthier. Probably won't see people dropping dead if they listen.
So that's a nice segue, because we've kind of covered those 3 boxes there about, okay, now you need more drugs. I think it would have been a really cool drinking game to say every time you say the word Masteron, someone takes a drink in this podcast, because I know you're a big fan, and we will go into why that is. But if we're talking in generalities here, people usually split PEDs into like the androgens, the DHTs, and the 19-nors and stuff like that.
Boom! Let's play the video. We're not going to worry about the breathing in part, but just lock this all in.
Bracing here is hard, which is why it's easier to do on a squat than it is at the bottom of a deadlift, right?